The need to customize an app is a constant in programming. On a sunny day, you will get away with a deployment-specific CSS. We like that. It's easy. Other differences will be more difficult to produce. They will require configuring behavior. That usually means additional coding, like in this example, where each customer wants a different display for the same data. This is the kind of configurability we will talk about today. In this video, I will show you a 4-step method you can apply to any customization request of this kind. Follow this process to add customizable features without breaking any functionality that already works. Here it comes. The first step is isolate. Isolate the smallest piece of code that needs to vary. The second step is implement. Implement the varying elements so that you can confirm, see it with your eyes, that it varies the way you wanted it to. Then comes the technical part. Inject. Put a varying part behind an abstraction. Inject the abstraction and then configure it. The last step is the one you already know from TDD. Improve. Never leave code that just works. Make it better through redesign, refactoring, generalization, etc. Act like a programmer. This is the 4I method, which I will now demonstrate on an application. It's 4I, not 4I, whatever. Once you learn it, I promise that you will never add configurable features in any other way but this. The request is small yet illustrative. Configure the presentation of company addresses on a web page. Let's begin with the first step, isolate. This is the Razor page that renders the address. The expression that does the work is not isolated. We need to remove it from HTML and put it in the page model at first. Razor will only receive the string version of the first address so that it can embed it into the HTML. All customizations in the data display will happen in the page model. On a side note, this entire 4-step process repeats the coding technique called iterative development. You make changes in microscopic steps. The application remains fully operational through the entire development process. Yet it will gradually evolve and attain new features and capabilities it didn't have. The page model will now calculate the required information for every company. That formatting expression we already had now comes here. As I said, this is the isolate step and we have just isolated the expression. This iteration is complete. We now have something to work with. I could even run the application. It would work just the same as before. I have broken nothing. We move on to the second step, implement. Whatever implementation you had in mind regarding this expression, now is the time to bring it in. Ignore everything else and just look at this method. Retain its signature and you will break nothing. So we start thinking of how to make this behavior different in every deployment. A simple search and replace comes to mind. You can control the address formatting using a format string. I suppose I don't have to explain this string. It is self-evident. There are some predefined placeholders. Any other character is a literal. Then comes the implementation. Start from the format string, substitute all placeholders with actual data one at a time. This quick and dirty solution has an obvious drawback. If raw data contain placeholders as their actual values, then subsequent calls to replace might damage the data. But we can leave corner cases to the last step in the process, the improve step. That is the power of this programming method. Do the simplest thing that will make the application work. Here is the application working. Now go back to code and supply a different format string. Run the application again and see how it adapts. The second step, implement, is complete. The application has attained one new ability. We can control behavior with a format string. Now we need to place it in the config file. The third step begins. Inject. We want to inject a concrete logic so that we can replace and configure it via dependency injection. That is where you remember everything you know about software design. There is no one-size-fits-all solution here. I will define an interface in the Web View Models namespace because I am dealing with view models. The interface will expose a method that converts a possibly missing address view model into a string that is never null. You may think that this interface is too concrete, but you will see that it is not. A class will promise to apply the search and replace tactic. But where is the format string? I don't see it here. Oh, somebody will need to inject it. This shows you that fine line between an abstraction and an implementation. The abstraction specifies the transformation. Concrete implementations tell how they will accomplish that. This one will apply the search and replace tactic using a mandatory format string. Yet another concrete implementation might allow testing the content of the model and omitting a field in the output string. The only limitation is your imagination. I can now copy the working solution and paste it into the new class. That is why I insisted on ensuring that the solution works first. Introducing an abstraction is challenging enough. Now that I know that this method is good, I can focus on injection alone. That will be straightforward. Go back to the page model, add the interface field and inject the implementation through the constructor. Remove traces of the prior implementation. Delegate the operation to the abstraction. All that remains is to set up the injection at the composition root. The IOC container will rely on the configuration to fetch the format string. This is the first format we used in this demo. I'm setting it in the app configuration this time. Then comes the service setup. Get the configuration, read the format string, and pass it to the concrete formatting strategy. The third step, injection, is now complete. We can try the application out. The first run displays the addresses just as the format string has defined it. When I change the configuration again, you will see a different format displayed. The table column is configurable. You can now deploy the application with a different configuration on every customer's server. Are we done? Is this a good solution? Experience teaches us that we should not leave fresh code in a state with obvious deficiencies. A customer will stumble upon a data-driven bug, and you will have a hard time figuring out how to fix this class in the future. You better make it resilient now while you still know what you're doing. The fourth and the last step in implementing this feature begins: improve. You have seen the problem already. If the street address includes the city placeholder, for example, then the later replacement will overwrite a part of the street address with the city name. That is a bug. I will re-implement this method to use a state machine. Still, the public interface will remain unchanged. All externally visible behavior will remain the same, minus the bug. I will do this very quickly. Please pause the video to read the details. These are the supported placeholders and the corresponding strategies to apply. A state machine would isolate a placeholder at the current position. It will default to just the current character and then pick the longest possible match using the aggregate operator. That is a common strategy in text processing. We can now walk through the format string, select the best match at each position, append the processed portion of the string, and increment the position by the match length. Again, please pause the video and read this code carefully if you must. The application will work the same as before. I haven't broken anything. This completes the 4 steps I wanted to show you. They will guarantee a safe transition from hard-coded behavior to fully configurable behavior. There will be almost no room left for bugs. Try this process today on a task you are working on and write in the comments how it went. If you enjoyed watching this video, then please consider supporting my channel by joining the growing community on my Patreon page. This channel is free thanks to the patrons. As a patron, you can download the source code for this and all other videos on my channel.